In following the Noble Lords, Lord Green and Lord Lilly, I just want to pick up one of many points from each of them to question. The Noble Lord, Lord Green, contrasted the people coming across the Channel with what he called genuine refugees. Can the Noble Lady the Minister confirm to me government figures that I've seen that say the majority of people coming across the Channel are indeed granted refugee status? So that comparison should not be made. Now, the Noble Lord, Lord Lilly, quoted applications for US visas from a significant number of countries. Now, none of those countries were on the list of the main countries, or indeed I think any people coming across the Channel coming from those countries. So those figures, I would argue, are entirely irrelevant to this debate. Now, I wanted to make 3 points in the brief time available to me. And the first one is about practicality. And a lot of our discussion in this debate focuses on what can we do to stop the boats. And of course, we do not want anyone crossing the world's busiest shipping channel in inadequate, flimsy vehicles. But I go back to a bleak January day in 2016 when I went to the memorial service for a 15-year-old Afghan boy called Masood. And he had died in the back of the lorry trying to get across the Channel, trying to join his sister here in the UK. In the year to that death, there was about a dozen refugees who died trying to cross the Channel in the back of boats, on trains and through other vehicles. At that time, 5 years ago, there were almost no boat crossings. Those routes, through a combination of COVID and government action, have essentially been closed off, so people have taken to the boats. If the government could somehow just snap its fingers and stop the boats, desperate people who have ties to the UK, like the Afghan soldier documented in the Times this morning, will still seek to come here. And the odds are those routes will become more and more dangerous. And of course, as several Noble Lords have already said, and I'd associate myself with essentially everything said by the Noble Lord, Lord Dudds, and the Noble Lady Baroness Hamway, a great profit to very nasty, illegal criminals. Now, the other point I wanted to make was to pick up, there's been a lot of discussion about so-called pull factors. And I think it's worth looking at what we actually do to the refugees who arrive here seeking to exercise the right to which they are entitled. We very often detain them indefinitely in a way that no other European country does. We often reject their applications when we shouldn't reject their applications. 3/4 of rejected claims are appealed, a third of those successfully. And I've seen the great difficulty there is in taking on those. I've got no doubt many more of them should be rejected. And, of course, we don't allow people seeking asylum while their claims are being processed to work, unlike many other countries. And I note that the latest figure I've seen from September is there are currently 67,547 claims awaiting decision. That's up 41% year on year, and the highest figure on record. People are trapped, my lords, refugees, very often victims of human rights abuses, people who've had to flee in the most desperate circumstances through the most awful condition, trapped in limbo for years, living on an absolutely inadequate sum of money in frequently horrendous accommodation. There is no pull factor there. And finally, my lords, I think there's a point we've got to raise in this debate, which is the issue about how many more people may seek to come because of our actions and our policies. And I will just highlight 2 points. One is the recent slashing of official development assistance, and the other is the COP26 climate talks, of which we were chair, failing to secure any funds beyond a contribution from Scotland for what's known as loss and damage, reparations for the climate damage caused by our actions that is impacting on people's lives and making it impossible for them to live in their own countries.